Many of the laws that are being passed, so I decided, I got 161 towns. Where can I go to get a pick-me-up? So I came to Morton. And I have to tell you, I've not been disappointed. We've been to a number of the businesses in your town, and all of them seem to be thriving. A number of them are looking at expanding. And boy, if I had 161 Mortons, I'd say over re-election. But I don't. So obviously we're back home for this week, and we were in Havana and Atlanta, Illinois, and Springfield, Illinois yesterday, and we're touring around the 20 counties as much as I can this week. Really what I would tell you is, as I've talked to many of you when I came in today, and I'm sure some of you will bend my ear before I leave, which is good, a lot of you seem frustrated as well. And it's no secret that our economy is in a downturn right now. There's a lot of debate right now in our nation's capital about what we should do and what we shouldn't do to get things going again. It's my belief that the government's role is to create an environment where private entrepreneurs and private business can make the investment and take the risk to become successful, that will ultimately create jobs that will lead us out of the recovery. The flip argument to that, which has prevailed so far, is that it's the federal government, it's different units of government that will ultimately spend enough of your tax dollars that it will reinstill confidence in the private sector that will then eventually lead to that eventual investment and those eventual job creations. And all I would say is that after a year and a half and the $1.6 trillion of debt, we have a higher unemployment rate. And of the 300,000 jobs created last month, over 250,000 of those jobs were government employees. So you need to look real closely at the numbers. You need to look at who's adding jobs and who's not adding jobs. If it makes you feel any better, the average federal worker's pay is $70,000 a year. The average private sector employee's pay is $40,000 a year. It's never been that way in our country's history. Historically, as you know, you came to work for a unit of government for the security, but you also sacrificed some pay. And now, thanks to this administration, we've added over 200,000 permanent jobs in the last year in the federal payroll. So there's going to be debate this fall. And what I would tell you is that don't get depressed, don't get down. Be encouraged that we live in a country where you can actually do something about it. That you don't have to take up arms, you don't have to riot in the streets, but you can actually get involved in the political process and make a change in who makes decisions, both the local government, the state government. We have some very, very critical elections here statewide, and then of course at the federal level. And my prediction is that the House of Representatives will change hands. We need 39 seats to take control of the House of Representatives, and there are over 20 candidates right now running against incumbent Democratic candidates who are already ahead of the incumbent in the polls and have more cash on hand, which is not a position you want to be in if you're an incumbent. If you've been watching what's happened in Washington, D.C. the last month, I'm here to report that we haven't really passed a lot of bills. Why is that? Because much of the agenda that the Speaker has brought forward, even her own members are pulling back from. We've spent the greater part of the last 2 months debating the financial regulatory reform bill. Most of my constituents, when I talk to them about financial regulatory reform, their eyes gloss over. Unless, of course, they're in the banking industry, and they understand that this bill is going to be very harmful to them. It has things like a bank tax in it, all under the guise that we're going to somehow create more jobs by raising taxes on those who lend capital to our private sector employers, who are ultimately supposed to be the ones that lead us out of this recovery. So there's really a philosophical difference between the leadership out in Washington, D.C. I know where many of you stand on that philosophical divide, and all I would say to you is that November can't come soon enough. And as long as I'm there representing you, I'm going to do my best to oppose some of this crazy legislation. The financial regulatory reform bill failed to pass before the break in the Senate by 1 vote. And that, of course, occurred when Senator Byrd passed away. And so there's now 1 vote short in the Senate, and so the financial regulatory reform bill failed. And as a result, more people are finding out what's in the bill. They're actually getting time to read it. And so now there's more like 3 votes short in the Senate. We had a jobs bill, another jobs bill, another spending bill, $50 billion spending bill, and the final week of the vote, they called it for a vote, and they had to pull it from the floor because more than 80 Democrats voted against it, and it was going to fail. So even her own members are now pulling back from this spending, pulling it back from the type of debt they're wanting to add. And I thought it was pretty telling when last week the president was at the G8 summit with the world leaders from Europe, and he's telling them they need to spend more and increase their debt. And the socialist presidents from their countries are saying, Mr. President, we're going to cut our budget deficit and we're going to limit our spending and growth. So I thought it was a pretty telling sign that in the United States of America, when our president's on the wrong side of spending and debt with our friends over in Europe. So stay tuned, get involved, and as always, you're free to contact my office when there's legislation that's important to you, or if my staff or I can be of service to you. It's an honor to represent you. It's been an exciting year to be there, albeit a frustrating one, but I'm looking forward to, in the short term, being able to represent you in the majority. Thank you.